A lone human, Alex, wakes up on a strange planet after a ship crash. The landscape is alien, glowing with neon forests and floating rocks. As he explores, he sees a beautiful figure in the distance, an alien woman with striking curves and an aura of power. He feels an instant connection, like she knows him. Alex approaches cautiously, calling out to her. She responds with a smile and whispers, "Do you know me?" Flashbacks hint at a mysterious connection between them. He feels he has met her before, but can't remember where. She introduces herself as Lyra, seemingly kind but with an air of authority. The planet's creatures watch from afar, creating tension. Suddenly, guards arrive, massive alien soldiers with glowing weapons. Lyra steps forward and reveals her true identity, the queen of this planet. Alex is shocked, realizing the woman he admired might be a ruler with immense power. Lyra explains that only humans she trusts can survive here, and Alex has unknowingly passed her test. Welcome to my channel Starlight Sci-Fi Stories. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Alex woke up to a strange sky that shimmered with colors he had never seen before. He tried to sit up, but pain shot through his body, and he realized he was lying on a soft, glowing moss that felt alive under his fingers. He looked around and saw floating rocks and trees that twisted toward the sky like they were reaching for the stars. He felt a shiver run down his spine. Because he was not on Earth anymore, he tried to remember how he got here, but his mind was foggy. The last thing he remembered was the engine of his ship failing and then darkness. He stood up, slowly testing his legs, and noticed strange footprints in the glowing moss. They were too large to be human, and shaped like nothing he had seen before. His curiosity and fear battled inside him. He started walking toward a faint light in the distance, hoping to find shelter, or maybe someone who could explain what had happened to him. The light grew brighter, and as he approached, he saw her. She was standing in a clearing. Her skin glowed softly like moonlight, and her hair flowed around her shoulders with colors shifting like liquid gold and violet. He could not believe his eyes. She had the finest curves he had ever seen, and her eyes were deep and knowing, and they seemed to pierce into his very soul. She stepped forward with grace and said, "Do you know me?" Her voice was soft, but carried a power that made Alex stop in his tracks. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. His mind felt like it had been pulled through a storm. He did not know what to say or do. He just stared as she walked closer, and the creatures of the forest watched silently from the shadows. She smiled, and her smile made his heart race like he had known her all his life, yet he could not remember how or why. Alex took a cautious step toward her, feeling drawn and afraid at the same time. Every instinct told him to run, but something stronger told him to stay. She stopped a few feet away and reached out a hand, as if inviting him to come closer. He felt a warmth in his chest that he had never felt before, and he slowly raised his hand to meet hers. The moment their fingers touched, a shock ran through his body, and visions filled his mind, flashes of places and faces he could not recognize, yet they felt familiar. He saw planets burning and healing, and people laughing and crying. He saw a ship like his own flying through the stars, and a shadow chasing it. He gasped and pulled back, but she did not move. She only watched him with eyes that seemed to understand everything. "Who are you?" he finally managed to whisper, his voice trembling. She tilted her head and said, "I am Lyra, the one you have been looking for. I have waited for you longer than you can imagine." Alex felt his knees weaken, because he did not understand how she could know him or why. She said she had been waiting for him. The forest around them seemed to pulse with energy, as if the trees and rocks themselves were alive and aware of their meeting. A low hum filled the air like a heartbeat, and he realized the planet itself was watching him. Suddenly, a loud noise shattered the silence. A group of massive armored beings appeared from behind the trees. Their eyes glowed red, and weapons hummed with dangerous energy. Alex panicked and instinctively stepped behind Lyra. She did not flinch. Instead, she raised her hands, and a shield of light formed around them, deflecting the first energy blasts with ease. The attackers shouted in a language Alex could not understand, and then advanced with terrifying speed. He wanted to run, but Lyra grabbed his arm and pulled him closer. Her grip was firm and commanding. "You have passed my test," she said calmly. "These creatures are here to challenge me, and anyone who stands with me must be brave." Alex felt a surge of fear and adrenaline at the same time. He did not know if he was ready to fight, but he could see the trust and confidence in her eyes. He nodded even though he was shaking inside. She smiled, and the light around her flared like the sun rising over the horizon. The attackers hesitated for a moment, and Alex realized the power she had was beyond anything he had ever imagined. Lyra spoke again in her melodic voice, "Stand by me, and learn quickly. The next moments would decide your fate." Alex followed her, as she moved with unbelievable speed and grace, weaving through the attackers, and striking them down with precise energy blasts. He watched in awe and fear at the same time. He tried to imitate her movements using what little he remembered from his training on Earth. But he stumbled and almost fell several times, yet each time Lyra caught him and guided him, her hands brushing against his, accidentally sending shivers through his body. He felt connected to her in a way he could not explain. The fight continued for what felt like hours. The attackers kept coming and Alex slowly learned to defend himself, and even strike back using improvised weapons, and the energy pulses Lyra taught him to focus on his fear and turn it into strength. He began to feel a strange sense of confidence growing inside him, as if this alien world and its dangers were awakening something within him. He had never known. He looked at Lyra and saw admiration, and something softer in her eyes, a flicker of pride. Finally, the attackers retreated, leaving scorch marks and broken equipment behind. The forest seemed to exhale, as if relieved. The creatures that had been hiding stepped forward, slowly circling them, like they were evaluating the human. The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken words. Alex was exhausted, but his mind raced with questions about Lyra and the planet, and why he felt like his life had been waiting for this moment. Lyra turned to him, her glowing eyes locking onto his, and said, "You have done well, Alex. You have passed the first trial. But the galaxy is not safe and dangers are coming that you cannot imagine." He felt a chill run through him and asked, "What do you mean?" She looked up at the sky and pointed to a dark shape moving among the stars that seemed to swallow the light around it. A fleet of ships, unlike anything he had seen before. They were massive, black and red, and emitted an ominous hum, the same hum that had filled the forest earlier. "Those ships belong to an enemy who wants this planet and everything we protect," she said, her voice steady, but her eyes darkened with worry. Alex could not believe what he was seeing and feeling. He realized that being here was more dangerous than he had thought, yet he also realized that he wanted to stay. He wanted to help her even if he did not fully understand why. She stirred something deep inside him that called for loyalty, courage, and maybe something more. The wind shifted and carried whispers through the trees. It was as if the planet itself was speaking, telling them to prepare and fight. Alex looked at Lyra and said, "I will help you. I do not know how, but I will stand with you." She smiled, her smile both gentle and fierce, a queen and a protector. And perhaps more. Alex felt his heart pounding in his chest. He cowl. "Do not imagine leaving her side." She reached out and took his hand, guiding him toward the ancient ruins. She said, "Here you will learn what it means to fight with me, to survive with me, and to protect what we love." The ruins were enormous structures carved into mountains and glowing with ancient symbols. He felt small and insignificant, yet alive. Inside the ruins, the air was thick with energy. Alex could feel it pulsing in his veins. The walls seemed to hum with power, and the floor glowed with light, guiding them forward. Lyra showed him devices he could barely understand, yet he instinctively knew how to use some of them. His mind stretched to adapt and learn faster than he thought possible. She explained how the energy of the planet could be harnessed to defend it, and how humans and aliens could work together. He listened intently, absorbing everything. Bond between them grew stronger, each touch, each glance, each word, making him feel like he belonged not just to this place, but to her. Suddenly, a loud alarm echoed through the ruins. The enemy fleet had moved closer, and their ships were beginning to enter the planet's atmosphere. Lyra grabbed Alex's shoulders and looked deeply into his eyes. Alex nodded, even though fear clawed at him. She smiled and said, "Remember what you learned, trust your instincts and trust me. Together we can face anything." They ran toward the exit, the ground shaking beneath their feet, energy beams cutting through rocks and trees around them. The creatures of the forest scattered, but some followed them, loyally protecting their queen. As they reached the clearing where they had first met, Lyra stopped and turned to Alex, a serious expression on her face. "The next part will be dangerous," she said, her hand resting on the hilt of a glowing weapon that looked alive. She looked like a queen ready to defend her kingdom, and a woman who trusted him enough to stand beside her. Alex felt his chest tighten. He knew he could not turn back, not now. He had seen too much, felt too much. He nodded resolutely, and they both raised their weapons, preparing for what was coming. Sky darkened as the enemy ships descended, and Alex felt a mixture of fear, excitement, and determination. He realized that this was only the beginning of a journey that would change him forever. He looked at Lyra and asked silently, "Will we survive?" She gave him a confident nod, but her eyes hinted at the dangers to come. The hum of the ships grew louder, the wind carrying the scent of ozone and burning energy, the forest around them alive with anticipation, creatures of all shapes and sizes appearing to watch the impending battle. Alex tightened his grip on his weapon, his heart pounding. He felt ready to fight and to protect her, even if he did not fully understand why. Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder, one last time before the battle began, her touch warm and grounding. She whispered, "You are ready, Alex." And together we will face the galaxy. He felt a surge of courage and determination. He had found a purpose and someone who believed in him. He stood beside her looking at the approaching enemy, realizing that the choices he made now would not only decide his fate, but the fate of this planet. And perhaps many worlds beyond the stars. The hum grew, deafening the light from ships illuminating the sky in red and black. And in that moment, Alex knew that his life had changed forever and that nothing would ever be the same again. The enemy ships hung over the planet, casting long shadows that stretched across the glowing forests and floating rocks. Alex felt his heart pounding. But he did not move away. He stood beside Lyra, feeling the weight of what was coming. He could see the massive weapons on the ships glowing like angry suns, and the creatures of the forest scattered. Yet some stayed hidden, watching the human and the alien queen preparing for battle. Lyra turned to him, her eyes fierce and determined, and she said, "We must fight together, or the planet will fall." Alex nodded, gripping his weapon tightly, his fingers trembling. But his mind focused. He could feel the power of the planet beneath his feet, pulsing like a heartbeat, giving him strength. Lyra raised her hand, and the light around them flared bright enough to cast shadows across the forest. The enemy ships reacted instantly, firing beams of red and black energy that scorched the trees and the glowing moss. Alex ducked instinctively, feeling the heat pass over him. But the sight of the forest burning made his stomach twist. He saw Lyra move with incredible speed and skill, deflecting beams and striking back with pure energy that seemed to flow from her very soul. He followed her as best he could, trying to imitate her movements and using the devices she had shown him in the ruins. Some of them he barely understood, but instinctively he knew how to activate them. Energy surged through his hands, and he felt a strange connection to the planet and to Lyra herself. The enemy soldiers began to descend from the ships, huge figures with glowing eyes and weapons that crackled with energy. They moved like shadows over the ground. Alex felt fear clawing at him. But he remembered Lyra's words, "Trust your instincts, trust me." He raised his weapon and fired a beam that hit one of the soldiers, making it stagger. He could not believe what he had just done, yet he felt a surge of pride and confidence. Lyra smiled briefly as she took down another soldier with a single precise strike. Her movements like a dance of light and power. Alex felt mesmerized and terrified at the same time. He realized that standing beside her made him stronger and braver than he had ever been. The battle raged across the forest, the sounds of energy blasts and cries of alien creatures filling the air. Alex and Lyra moved together, as if they had fought side by side for years, their steps in sync, their instincts connected. Alex began to understand the rhythm of the fight, how to anticipate moves, and how to use the planet's energy to defend himself. He saw glimpses of the past in his mind, flashes of people he did not know yet, felt familiar scenes of battles and victories and losses. He realized that somehow this planet and Lyra were teaching him things he had never learned on Earth. Suddenly a massive shadow fell over them. A huge ship descended, separating itself from the fleet, its engines glowing like molten lava, and its weapons spinning with lethal intent. Lyra's eyes darkened, and she said, "That ship holds the leader of this attack, the rival queen who has hunted my people for centuries." Alex felt a chill run through him. The idea of facing a single enemy so powerful was terrifying, yet he looked at Lyra and saw the courage in her eyes, and he knew he had to stand with her. She grabbed his hand, and the connection between them pulsed like a living thing. He felt strength flowing from her and from the planet itself. They ran toward the base of the shadowy ship, dodging beams and falling debris. Lyra called out instructions, teaching Alex how to use the energy in new ways, focusing it into she elds and blasts. He struggled at first, but each time he succeeded, his confidence grew. The rival queen appeared on a platform above them, a figure with black and silver armor and eyes that burned like fire. She shouted words Alex did not understand, and then unleashed a wave of energy that knocked him off his feet. Lyra caught him before he hit the ground and whispered, "Stay focused, trust yourself, and trust me." Alex nodded, swallowing fear and pain. He pushed himself to his feet, ready to fight with everything he had. The battle between the queens began, the air around them shimmering with power, energy colliding, creating shockwaves that rattled the ground. Alex felt the heat and the force, and yet he knew he could not turn away. He saw an opening as the rival queen struck Lyra. A weak spot appeared. He raised his weapon and fired a pulse that hit the enemy, making her stagger. She turned toward him, anger and surprise in her eyes. Alex felt a rush of adrenaline and courage. He ran toward her, striking again and again, guided by instinct and by the energy flowing through him. Lyra took advantage of the opening, striking with a strike so powerful it sent the rival queen flying into the shadow ship, crashing through its hull. The ship exploded with a massive blast, sending shockwaves across the forest and shaking the floating rocks. Alex and Lyra shielded themselves using the energy they had learned to control. When the dust settled, the enemy fleet began to retreat, their massive ships disappearing into the sky like shadows fleeing from the sun. The forest was damaged, but a live glowing moss slowly covering the scorched ground creatures. Cautiously returning, Alex looked at Lyra, and she smiled a tired yet victorious smile. He felt a wave of relief, and all the queen beside him had fought with incredible power, and he had survived beside her. He realized that he had changed. He was no longer the human who had stumbled onto this planet. He had learned to fight, to trust, to feel the planet's energy, and to connect with Lyra in ways he could not fully explain. Lyra turned to him, her eyes softening, and she said, "You have done more than survive, Alex. You have become part of this planet, and part of me." He felt his chest tighten at her words. He did not fully understand all that she meant, but he knew he wanted to stay with her, protect her, and help rebuild what had been damaged. She led him toward the ruins, once more the structures glowing with healing energy, repairing themselves slowly. As if the planet was alive and grateful, she explained how the energy of the planet could heal the forest, and how humans and aliens could work together to create something stronger and lasting. Alex listened, carefully absorbing every word, feeling a sense of belonging he had never felt on Earth. As they walked, he realized that the connection between him and Lyra was deeper than he had imagined. Every glance, every touch seemed to resonate with meaning and understanding. He felt courage and loyalty, but also something more, a warmth in his chest that made him feel alive in ways he had never experienced before. They reached the central chamber of the ruins, a place where the energy was strongest, and Lyra placed her hand on a glowing console, showing him how to harness the energy further. Alex followed her instructions carefully, each movement precise and powerful. He felt the energy responding to him, flowing through him, and he realized that together they could protect not just this planet, but perhaps many others. Suddenly, a whisper of movement caught his attention. A shadowy figure appeared at the edge of the chamber, its eyes glowing with dark intent. Alex raised his weapon, and Lyra stood beside him, her aura flaring. They both felt the tension. The figure did not move, but watched, waiting. The hum of the planet pulsed stronger, warning them of danger. Alex realized that their fight was not over, that the galaxy still held threats, and that standing beside Lyra meant facing challenges beyond imagination. Yet he felt ready. He trusted her, and he trusted himself. He took a deep breath, feeling the energy of the planet and the courage inside him, merging into one unstoppable force. The figure stepped closer, revealing hints of armor, and a weapon unlike anything Alex had seen before. He felt fear, but also determination. Lyra whispered, "You are ready, and I am with you." Alex nodded, gripping his weapon, his heart steady. He felt the bond between them stronger than ever as they prepared to face whatever came next. The ruins glowed around them, the forest outside healing slowly, and the stars above twinkling, as if cheering their victory, yet warning them that this was only the beginning of a journey that would test their courage, loyalty, and love. The shadowy figure paused, and then vanished as quickly as it had appeared, leaving behind a sense of anticipation and mystery. Alex looked at Lyra, and she smiled, tired but proud. She said, "The galaxy is vast and full of dangers, but together we can face them." He felt a surge of hope and purpose. He realized that he had found a place where he belonged, a purpose worth fighting for, and someone worth protecting. The energy of the planet pulsed beneath his feet, reminding him that he was no longer alone. He was part of something greater, a protector of worlds, and a companion to a queen with the finest curves in the galaxy, someone who trusted him and needed him as much as he needed her. They stood together, watching the sun rise over the floating rocks and glowing forest, a new day beginning, full of possibilities, challenges and adventures. Alex felt his chest swell with determination and excitement. He knew that no matter what came next, he would face it with courage. And with Lyra beside him, the connection between them unbreakable, the bond forged in battle, and trust, their hearts aligned, and their minds ready for the galaxy that waited for them beyond the horizon. The hum of the planet steady beneath them, a constant reminder of the life and energy that flowed through everything they had survived together, and would continue to survive together. As the wind blew through the forest, carrying whispers of creatures returning, and the scent of healing moss, Alex turned to Lyra. She looked at him, smiling softly, her eyes warm and fierce at the same time. He felt a surge of gratitude, love and loyalty. He realized that this was only the beginning of a journey that would span stars, planets, and challenges unimaginable. Yet he did not fear. He was ready, he was strong, he was connected. And he was with her, the queen of the planet, the woman who had waited for him for years, and the being who had changed his life forever. Together, they stepped forward into the new day, ready for whatever the galaxy would throw at them, their hands brushing together, energy and trust flowing between them, and the story of their adventures just beginning.